Welcome back everyone, it's your boy Big Man Big Books, here to talk to you today about a comic book that I've been enjoying very, very much, that being the comic book series better known as Hellboy by Mike Mignola. 2025 is going to be a good year of reading for me. I have decided to read more comics this year than I've read in the last few years. Now, I read a lot of comics coming up in the years when I was, between the ages of 15 and 18. I was just reading a lot of graphic novels, a lot of Marvel, a lot of DC, a lot of independent stuff. And then as time went on, you eventually graduate and start reading more physical kind of worded books as opposed to graphic novels. And it's a shame really, because I really miss reading graphic novels. It's a huge part of my kind of enjoyment of reading. It's a huge part of the storytelling that I've become accustomed to has surfaced from reading comic books. So this year I decided to really kind of plunge deeper into the world of comics and pick out some titles that maybe I wouldn't have really have given a go previously. Now, of course, you've probably already heard of Hellboy from the hit Guillermo del Toro movie, and possibly from the remake in 2019 or 2017, I think it was. And of course, there's a new movie coming out, The Crooked Man, also based on a Hellboy short story. Now, for me, I wasn't really a fan of the movies, the Del Toro movies back in the day. Visually, they're great. I think they're really great with how they've kind of accomplished, a certain theme. But in general, I just never really clicked with those movies, which really made me kind of feel like I wasn't ever going to really explore Hellboy, the comic book itself. That being said, I decided to pick it up on a whim. I think I'd seen someone talking about the new movie and how accurately it tied in with the comics, and I decided, you know what, I'll pick this up, I'll see how it is. And you know what, pleasantly surprised, because I am thoroughly enjoying the Hellboy run, and I think it's one of the best comics I've read in a long time. That being said, it is very different to the movie, and that might be why I didn't really enjoy it, because at the same time, the comic is really, really entertaining. Now, just to kind of give you some perspective about the Hellboy comic and what it is, essentially Hellboy is a character who comes from hell, if that wasn't already obvious. He is summoned by the Nazi army during World War II to help them win and prevail within the war. However, this is intercepted by, I believe, the British government and the BPRD, who later become a huge part of the storyline. Hellboy is then, of course, raised by the government, by the BPRD, and is trained to become a supernatural agent and detective, solving various crimes of a supernatural level. And that, in a nutshell, is Hellboy. What I really like about Hellboy in particular is the era that these books were kind of coming out in the kind of 90s, when they were really kind of started off, is a very much a very distinct era within comic books. We saw the rise of stuff like Image Comics and Todd McFarlane's Spawn, which are predominantly known in the early days for their vast kind of colour palettes and their crazy scenarios going on the actual page. There was a real kind of almost like contest to see how much can we fit on one page around that sort of era. So yes, as beautiful as a lot of these comics are, that was very much the oversaturation of its time. Whereas Hellboy kind of sort of goes against the grain in that respect. Hellboy is not trying to sort of force feed you some kind of imagery or anything particularly wild and crazy with its colours. It keeps to a very simple colour palette and a very simple drawing style. However, still manages to remain very beautiful, to be honest, in terms of its art style. Essentially, within the comics of Hellboy, you follow Hellboy as he is solving various sort of supernatural cases, whether that be, a haunted home or some kind of, demonic being. Hellboy's a really interesting character because I didn't get this from the movies, really, but he's very obviously conscious of the fact he is, not human, and he's not a normal kind of citizen of Earth. This is really interesting because in the movie particularly, they really play off the whole kind of, don't look at him in the eyes, don't ask him this question, that question, like as if he's going to kick off and absolutely, destroy something. But in actuality, in the comic, Hellboy is very cautious about how he looks and trying to present himself to people in a much more kind of humble and kind way. Yeah, he's got his one-liners and he's, and he comes out with funny things, but in general he's got this real kind of almost bedside manner when he's speaking to victims and people who have, seen bad things or ghosts or monsters. He's really keen to be approachable in that respect, which I think is a really interesting kind of way of painting this character that literally looks like the devil. There's a real theme throughout the storyline in respect of Hellboy about life's purpose, what you should do versus what you really want to do, and Hellboy trying to go against the grain of bringing upon kind of the end of the world, and he sort of takes that idea and says, yeah, no, I'm not doing it. And I just feel that's a really cool theme in respect of kind of we can all sort of relate to that in a little bit of a way, kind of what you feel you should be doing versus what you really want to be doing. I just think they really nail it on the head with Hellboy. Where do you start? What do you want to do in terms of reading? How do I read it? Where do I begin? The good thing I found about Hellboy is, yes, there's a lot of spin-offs. There are other series within Hellboy and prequels and follow-ons, but to be perfectly honest, it doesn't feel nearly as sort of intimidating as, say, like a Marvel or DC run that's been going for 50, 60 years. It's very much a case of you can pick up Volume 1 of Hellboy of the Omnibus and just crack on, and then go into Volume 2 and then Volume 3. There is a designated timeline you can look up, and I don't think it really matters how you read the stories, but there's lots of spin-offs, such as the BPRD series. There's also some other series all from the world of Hellboy. However, they all very much stand on their own. They all very much can be read as a singular kind of storyline and don't really need to be back to back. So far the series is finished to my knowledge. They have produced a lot of kind of follow-on series that are kind of prequels to Hellboy, spin-offs, but the actual Hellboy run itself, I believe, is actually now finished. In terms of a similar vibe, if I can sort of compare it to any other things, it gives me, the drawing style very reminiscent of stuff like Lock and Key by Joe Hill. If you really love that art style, really love that sort of vibe that's created from that art style as well. Respect to kind of the contents though, very reminds me a lot of kind of fables, sort of like Wolf Among Us, mixed in with a bit of like Buffy and kind of Supernatural, the TV series as well. So yeah, there's a lot of good vibes. Hellboy so far has been a really good sort of change of pace. If you're looking for something that is fun, it's got some good kind of horror twists and turns. Hellboy series is a great comic book to get into, and it's not too intimidating. You don't need to go back and read 50 years worth of kind of contents to understand what's going on. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate your time and patience. Take care and goodbye.